what it really feels like to be in a trauma bond. What's up, amazing souls? Let me ask you this. Have you ever been stuck in something so toxic, yet walking away felt impossible? Today, we're diving into that heavy, emotional roller coaster called a trauma bond. And here's the best part. We've got real input from survivors and thrivers just like you, who shared their experiences when I asked this question on my page. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. So, what does a trauma bond actually feel like? If you're not familiar, a trauma bond is an emotional trap created through cycles of manipulation, abuse, and control. It's what ties you to someone who's been hurting you. Some compare it to Stockholm Syndrome, that strange phenomenon where captives grow attached to their captors. In toxic relationships, it's a similar story. You find yourself sympathizing with the very person who's been causing you harm. Here's the truth. It's not just hard to walk away, it feels nearly impossible. The abuse becomes this twisted kind of comfort, almost like an addiction you can't shake. Sound familiar? Stick around, because we're unpacking all of this and giving you the insight to break free. You might be thinking, I feel anxious, and the anxiety just drains me completely. Once I'm burned out, it's like I can't think straight or make choices that actually help me. And you're right. When you're caught up in a trauma bond, it's like you're constantly giving up pieces of yourself just to escape the discomfort. You go deeper into the pain to avoid facing it head-on. It's tough either way. The pain of staying feels unbearable. But leaving isn't any easier. Some people stay because at least they know what to expect. Leaving feels like stepping into the unknown, and that's terrifying. You might also think, I just feel crushed and drained, like there's no way out. And honestly, I feel like I don't even deserve anything better because I don't see my own worth anymore. That's exactly what these toxic dynamics do to you. They mess with your sense of self. The narcissist or toxic person makes you believe everything is your fault. They convince you that their mistreatment is something you deserve. They twist it, making you think, no one else would put up with me. I'm the one causing the problem here. I'm the abuser, not them. They're just the victim in all this. It's heartbreaking how common this experience is for so many people. You might describe it like being stuck on a roller coaster that never stops. To get off, you'd have to tear yourself freed from the safety harness and leap off while it's speeding at full force, hundreds of feet in the air. There's no soft landing waiting for you. That's exactly what a trauma bond feels like. A constant whirlwind of emotions. Part of you knows logically that you need to leave. Your rational brain is screaming, this isn't good for me. This is abuse, I need to walk away. But then your emotions kick in and completely overpower that logic. It's like a floodgate has burst, and all those emotions just drown out your ability to think clearly. Pain takes the wheel. And let me tell you, pain can drive you like nothing else. It's this confusing mix of feelings. I feel like I can't breathe if you leave, but when you're here, it's like you hate me. Yet somehow, you're also the only one who makes me feel good. Do you see how twisted that is? That's the essence of a trauma bond. The same person causing you harm is the same person offering you comfort. When the source of your hurt is also the source of your healing, it creates this deep, unshakable bond. You start feeling like you're dependent on them, even though they scare you. It's like you don't want it, but you think you can't survive without it. It's a cycle that's so hard to break. You know it's toxic, but the moments of relief feel like the only thing keeping you going. It's no different from chasing a high, like being addicted to something that's slowly destroying you. Many people compare breaking a trauma bond to quitting a powerful drug. Some recovering addicts I've spoken to have even said, I used to struggle with serious drug addiction, but breaking a trauma bond was way harder. Now, I'm not trying to diminish anyone's experience with addiction. Every struggle is valid. This is just something I've heard from others sharing their stories. And honestly, that comparison hits hard because it shows just how deep this kind of bond can go. It's not just tough, it's overwhelming. But recognizing that you're not alone in this struggle can make a big difference. By the way, if you're looking for support, I run a group called the Mental Healers. You can find resources, courses, and coaching on my website at mentalillness.net. Just scroll down and you'll see all the options. Someone once shared, "I only dealt with it for about 4 months because I quickly realized I was dealing with a narcissist. Even though I felt stuck and powerless, I knew I had to leave." That statement right there shows how emotions and logic often battle it out in these situations. In her case, logic won. But let's be real. Your emotions can feel like a flood, completely overwhelming any rational thoughts. That's where it helps to think of your logical brain like a drainage system. If you've got strong plumbing, logic can clear out the emotional flood before it takes over. It's not easy, but it's possible. Another person might say, "It's so toxic, but I can't stop thinking about them. Even when they treat me like garbage, I still put them on a pedestal." That's what happens when you become so dependent on someone that you lose your sense of self. You convince yourself you need the very person who's tearing you apart. Narcissists are experts at this. They twist the narrative so much that you end up blaming yourself for their actions. You might even start thinking things like, "If I hadn't raised my voice, I wouldn't have been hit," or "If I had just kept quiet, this wouldn't have happened." You take on the blame for their abusive behavior, and it keeps you trapped in the cycle. It's heartbreaking how often this happens to people. You know the relationship is damaging, but you feel like only they can fix the pain they caused. It's like you can't breathe without them, even though they're suffocating you. So, how do you break free? It's not easy, but you have to fight through the pain and push through the hurt. You have to get good at challenging those toxic patterns and reclaiming your sense of self. It's a battle, but it's worth it. Having a strong support system is a game changer, and that's exactly why I created one. It's so important to have people you can count on, people who truly understand what you're going through and can offer you a shoulder to lean on. This kind of connection is what makes real healing possible over time. That's why I'm always telling people, if you can break free from a trauma bond, you can take on anything life throws at you. I'm not just saying that for effect. It's the honest truth. Breaking a trauma bond proves to you that you have the strength to handle anything. Think about it. Your life feels so much better when the narcissist is out of the picture, yet a part of you still clings to the hope that the occasional acts of kindness they showed were genuine. You find yourself longing for the version of them you met at the start. That person who seemed perfect. You can't stop wishing they'd come back. You might even find yourself chasing after that illusion, desperate to bring back the person you thought they were. But when you start pulling away and unraveling the trauma bond, you realize the truth. They were never real. That perfect version of them was just a facade, a mask they wore to pull you in. I'm not saying every narcissist is completely devoid of feelings. Some may have cared for you in their own way. But the problem is, they can't sustain it. Whatever they gave you in the beginning was temporary. They couldn't keep it up for long. And what comes after? Anxiety, exhaustion, loneliness, and heartache. Those are the words so many people use to describe life with a narcissist. The anxiety, it's constant. You're always on edge, never knowing what's coming next. It's like walking on eggshells all the time. Exhaustion, that's not just physical. It's mental and emotional too. Narcissistic relationships drain you because you're pouring in all your energy, and the return is next to nothing. You give 100%, and they give back maybe 10%, if that. And loneliness, it's a unique kind of isolation. You're not physically alone, but emotionally, it's like no one's there. They're still around in body, but they've completely checked out emotionally. It's heartbreaking to feel so abandoned by someone who's still sitting right next to you. The hardest part, realizing that the person you cared for most is also the one who's hurt you the deepest. They've caused you pain you never thought you'd experience, especially from someone who claimed to love you. The betrayal leaves you confused, and that confusion creates trauma, because your emotions and logic are at war. It's like you're being consumed by this person. You lose sight of who you are because your entire world revolves around them. Some people get so trapped in this dynamic that they make heartbreaking sacrifices, like distancing themselves from their own kids, just to keep the narcissist happy. Breaking free isn't easy. It's one of the hardest things you'll ever do. But it's also one of the most powerful. It's how you take back your life, piece by piece, and start rebuilding who you really are. The narcissist might say something like, "Your kids are the issue here. They're causing all the problems." And sadly, some people go so far as to give up their kids just to make the narcissist happy. Yes, it really happens. But if you're serious about breaking free from the trauma bond, you've got to be brutally honest with yourself about who this person really is. No more excuses. You just can't afford to keep lying to yourself. Narcissists thrive on keeping you confused. They'll do everything to make you believe they're someone they're not. That's why it's so important to face the truth head-on, no matter how painful it is. Healing takes effort. It takes fighting through the hurt, growing stronger, and refusing to back down. Breaking the trauma bond is tough, but it's the way to reclaim your life. That's how you win, by pushing through and not giving up. You have to remind yourself every single day that you're enough, no matter what. Whether you're in the relationship or out of it, you're enough just as you are. You're not broken. You're healing, growing, and moving forward. Believe that, because it's the truth. I actually posted about this on my Facebook page, and it took off way more than I expected. Over 200 comments. People were sharing their stories saying, "I felt the same way, but I finally broke free." That's why I made this video, to show you that you're not alone. There's a whole community of people who get it, people who have been in your shoes and have come out the other side stronger. And if they can do it, so can you. Why not you? Don't let that little voice in your head tell you otherwise. You know the one. They're stronger than me. They've got more going for them. That's not your voice. It's the narcissist's influence talking. Don't let them control your narrative. Anyway, I've got to run. I've got a Zoom call to jump on. But before I go, make sure to subscribe to my channel and check out my website at mentalillness.net for more content. Thanks so much for watching this far. I truly appreciate you. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It helps me reach more people and keep this conversation going. And if you've got time, stick around and watch another video or two. Thanks again, y'all. See you next time.